Great news on the American economy that no one else is talking about. Isn't that weird? Only your old buddy Josh. So I was reading this article on Zero Hedge today, and they talked about how Germany is a Charlie Foxtrot because they're deindustrializing, and yet their population is getting older and whatnot. And so their pension system is in much worse shape than ours. Just a fact, which is actually kind of funny because Germany. Look, I'm German, dude. I mean, I'm part Mick and I'm part Kraut, which is why I'm a legend. What's going on? Why does it keep making that noise? Because I crush. German's basically a happy drunk who's very organized. I got the happy part of the Irish. I got the drunk part of the Irish and German, but I'm not very organized, all right? So what's that about? Anyway, and so they talked about government spending to GDP versus government debt to GDP. And it never occurred to me, ever, to even think that we always talk about government debt to GDP. And then we say, what are we spending our money on? Interest, military, what else are we spending our money on? Medicare, Social Security, whatnot. But then if your GDP is 30 trillion, let's just say, and you're spending 30 trillion, your government, you're going so slow there, guy. Your government spending to GDP is 100%. Literally, your GDP is being consumed by government spending, and that's absolutely unsustainable. All right? So in many European countries, government spending to GDP is well above what ours is. France is like 55% government spending to GDP, which means basically, I'm going to sneeze. Oh, hold on. COVID. Which means for every dollar that is created in, I'd say wealth, but in growth, if you will, production capacity, the government of France is spending 55 cents of that. That's unsustainable, without question. Without question, you can't do that. Especially as your population gets older. And the good old US of A is like 40%, if even that came out off the top of my head. It's 40%. And ironically, Japan, who everyone freaks out about the debt to GDP, is even below us. Which means they have the capacity to increase government spending if they need to, because their production has a lot more room in terms of allowing government spending. Now, I don't think you'd want to do that. I don't like government spending. It's very inefficient, for sure. But at the end of the day, everyone focuses on debt to GDP. And they look at Germany, they look at these other European Union, basically stupid stuff. They say, look, they're doing much better off. I'm like, just they're not. Because their GDP isn't growing to maintain their level of spending. It's just not. And the reason they have such high level of spending, because we let them. We said, we'll take care of your defense. You just basically freaking kiss up to us. You see what I'm saying? And now the GOAT comes in there and says, we're not doing that anymore. And don't forget, I've been reading a lot about the Eisenhower, the Roosevelt, Morgenthau's, and all these clowns from the 1940s, the World War II and post World War II regimes. They were really, and of course, how Eisenhower freaking just, what a clown, dude. What a clown. Never mind how many innocent Germans he murdered, allowed to be murdered, I should say, and in prison camps. But the facts are, Eisenhower did basically put a rein on Patton and allow the freaking, in terms of allowing Prague and Berlin to be taken over by the commies. And just how many people in fact, they said something like 2 million German women were raped and mauled by freaking the commie hordes that came in. Just freaking disgusting. Just disgusting. And Stalin says, have with him as you will. And Eisenhower could have stopped that, but he didn't. And so then we had to spend the next 50 years basically securing Germany and the rest of Western Europe from the freaking communist hordes. It's evil. No other, it's just pure evil. And Patton was going to tell everybody, and then he got, magically murdered or killed in an accident outside of Mannheim or something like that. It's sad. The history of human beings is just sad. And it's never been any different. It's always been, forever will be. I mean, just look at David and Uriah. It's disgusting, man. Anyway, so going back, so we had a reason to defend Germany, defend the West, because the Soviet hordes were knocking on the door. We had to have military presence there because the German army was just destroyed. You know, England, a very small country as it is, they didn't have enough. And as such, the Americans had to we had to make a stand there, and we did. Those days are gone now. Those days are gone. And as such, we need to just pull everybody back from Germany and Poland and all this stuff. Say, no, you guys are on your own now. We have to defend our own borders, essentially. Anyway, so the point being is Germany now is going to have to maintain a bigger military presence on their own. You know, the Europeans are. France is going to have to maintain a bigger military presence on their own. On top of that, they're funding insane amount of illegal immigrants coming in there. I literally don't understand that. On top of that, their population is older and older and older, and they're less Germanic as they used to be in terms of hard working, ass kicking people. They're just not. And so what happens then? Well, you got to assume that their government spending isn't going to go down at all. It's only going to go up relative to their GDP. And so what's going to happen is their GDP starts shrinking, government spending starts going up. I mean, this is inevitable, but we're not anywhere near that. But no one wants to talk about that because it's positive news. Our government spending relative to GDP is well below the vast majority of European countries, well below. But everyone just talks about Japan and the U.S. government debt to GDP. And as always, I say, yeah, that might be true, but who owns the government debt anyway? Well, it's us, all right? We own our own government debt. So you can't sit there and say, oh, my goodness, the government debt to GDP is going to break our bank. You just can't. I mean, I guess you could. You could say, well, Americans will stop. I guess you could say, which I, frankly, would chuckle at, Americans will stop investing in their own debt. Really? Who invests in our debt? Is it actual? I mean, there are some, don't get me wrong, individual mom and pop pension funds and all that. What are they going to do instead, though? They're going to invest in the stock market? Really? You think that they'll say, no, I find NVIDIA stock less risky than a U.S. government debt? Huh. That doesn't seem to make sense to me. What are they going to do? Buy Japanese debt? That doesn't make sense to me. Chinese debt? I mean, hell, we even know what China's spending to GDP is because they don't even publish it. At least I'm aware of. And so it's like, what are you going to invest in? European debt? I mean, you got to invest in something. And our facts are GDP is still the biggest in the world by far. Nothing comes close. And on top of that, our debt level, while high, but again, we own our debt. And essentially our government spending relative to our GDP is incredibly low. Just these are positive. I never thought about it. Government spending to GDP. It never occurred to me until today in this article. So that's something I share with you. I know positive news never gets good. I guarantee this will not get good video views. I guarantee, because always negativity sells. Just look at your stream. Oh, the end of this, the end of that, or freaking it's crazy. But yet we're living quite well. So be positive. All right. God bless.